Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with a recap of the two FIA races to end the season that was in the Nations and Manufacturers Championship. So starting off with a very quick recap of the Nations race. We're not going to go too in depth with this one because this race was dominated by dirty, obviously with it being Group 1 at high speed track. It was always going to be the case. However, in the first race we qualified very well. However, we started on the wrong tyre and ruined our race basically. This race we wasn't going to make the same mistake. You see, did quite a good qualifying lap again at 37.2. Was starting to really get into the rhythm of this track and starting to hook up some lap times. It was starting to gel with me, so expecting a better result this time. Starting on the softer tyre, you can see we're going with the mediums this time. We're not going to run that hard tyre which we ran in the first race because it just caused more trouble than it was worth. So in this race, starting on the medium tyre, behind Fire and Josetti up front in the lead there. You can see Josetti was absolutely flying around this combination, pretty much destroying everyone. So it's just going to be a case of see what we can do, try and hold on to P3. We should be able to do it because one, the dirty air, and two, it's a very hard track to overtake on anyway. So straight away into turn one, going to be careful with the tyres obviously because they're cold and you've got the dirty air of the car in front, so you need to be very cautious on your opening lap when them cold tyres are in effect. But we've got enough of a gap to P4 behind. You can see nearly 3 temps. He's a little bit too far back to really try anything into this braking zone. However, he does go for something, actually hits us in the rear of the car and again hits us again there. Looking at who it was the driver that accused us of dive bombing in the manufacturer's race. So maybe he should take a look at his own driving there, but no harm done. We get away with that. And we're still in P3. You can see we've got Fire up front. We're going to jump into that slipstream and work our way into the heavy braking zone at the end of this straight. Maybe possibly that wasn't a deliberate overtaking attempt by PCM behind. I don't know. It could have just been the slipstream that has caught him out with the cold tyres. That is a possibility in this combination, as I do know that quite a few drivers were getting caught out on that corner. So yeah, it's just a possibility that was just a general mistake. But into the braking zone, trying to be very cautious on the downshifting for here. You can see what we were trying to do with this SRT Tomahawk in Group 1 was be very patient before putting it in first gear. I kind of worked it out, and then upshifting very early into second gear when you're getting on the power really helped on that hairpin corner. And this final corner, staying in 5th gear as much as possible, was really how you did this corner and gained a lot of time. I was dipping it down into 4th when we were doing early practices, but started to realise we need to stay in 5th gear there, and you will carry more speed through the corner. Although it's very difficult when you're following another car to even try and do that in 5th gear because it just doesn't have the downforce when you're this close to a car in front. However, you can see behind, we've got about 6 tenths gap to behind, and we're 1.1 second behind Fire. If we can stay anywhere near Fire on this opening stint, I'll be really happy. However, I do know that the softer compound tyres in Group 1, the softer the tyres go, the better I tend to perform in Group 1. The harder tyres I struggle more on than the softer tyres because I like that feeling of extra grip. The front end being really strong tends to suit my driving style on this game. So when it's mediums or softs, I perform better than when it's on the hard tyre. That is how it generally is, as we give that wall a little bit of a tap there. Suffering with that slipstream, you can see, but managing to hook up that corner there, the right hand corner onto this long straight quite well, and giving ourselves a bit of a gap to P4 and actually starting to gain a little bit back on Fire, and we're in that slipstream now. Josetti in the lead looks like he's just on an absolute mission, flying away. You can see I think Fire deliberately leaving the slipstream possibly and struggling to stay with it anyway because of the dirty air, so probably not wanting to push his car. I think what Fire's intentions was just to save tyres and give himself better tyres towards the end of the stint. Very sensible driving, obviously, to get yourself out the slipstream. Then you've got clean air, and the car behind just suffers with that dirty air, and the front tyres just scrubbing through the corners. As you see, you'll see it now with my tyres. We're really pushing, but you can just see the understeer kicking in through there. It's really difficult to cope with the loss of aero, but we're trying our best. You can see the gap down back up to 1.5 nearly seconds there. But once we've lost the slipstream to 5, it's actually going to be a benefit for us because it's going to make life easier. I should have probably dropped out of it on purpose and then gave the driver behind P4 more of a difficult task in overtaking because we'll have so much more downforce through the corners. But you can see we've actually lost that toe a little bit now. It's up to 1.6 seconds, so we should be able to gain a little bit of time through this section as he goes to have a little look up the inside behind us. We cover that off. There's no way, you know, we brake very late anyway because we haven't got the dirty air to the car in front. We've got no slipstream, so I could brake really late through there, and you can see the difference. As soon as we've got no slipstream, we actually caught back up to Fire's back into the tow range because we had so much more grip through that section. It was like driving on a fresh set of tyres. That is the kind of difference it feels like. I think they need to make some alterations within different classes still. Some people thought they had made some changes to driving in the slipstream and high downforce. I personally think it was the track combinations as we now skip ahead to the start of lap 5. And you can see we've just done a 1:37.5, pretty much one of our first laps in clean air. We did actually catch Fire back up on that lap. You can see got back into the slipstream. However, he's managed to break away again on that turn 1 when we were in that dirty air. So shows you the advantage of being in clean air. Once we got a clean air lap in, 1:37.5 on lap 4 when the tyres were actually starting to suffer a little bit, shows the potential was there for myself at this combination. It's just, I think it was just starting to gel with me on this run. The previous run it was gelling with us in qualifying, but then I was starting to get in a bit of a rhythm with this track on this race here, obviously putting 100% concentration in and driving quite well. You can see we've got rid of the slipstream from the car behind, so now we've got no slipstream from the car in front and we've got no one behind us to really make us worry in the braking zone, so we can just concentrate on our race now. Brake bias 2 to the rear, you see that's to try and save a little bit of life out of them front tyres. I didn't want to go 3 to the rear because this heavy braking zone, mainly here, when you downshift to 1, it was really stepping out. So we skip ahead now to lap 9. This is just before the pit stop phase. We're actually going to have to use some of the actual footage now with the actual sound from the live stream because the replay did not save properly because we had no memory left on our save data. So into the pits now, we're going to put the hard tyres on, and now this is a stint that I tend to struggle on. You can see I think going into the pits we weren't, before the lap 4 that when Fire pitted we were just a couple of seconds back. We've actually lost a bit of time there where Fire's done quite a nice outlap, and obviously first lap on them harder tyres, but we've got slightly fresh tyres. We're going to skip ahead now all the way to the end of the race because it was just driving on my own for quite a few laps. You can see we're starting this final lap now. We were on our own, no one behind us. We got 4 seconds to the car behind, 6 seconds of Fire. We lost out quite a bit to Fire on this harder stint, and this is the stint where I kind of knew it would be. The harder the tyre, I struggle more. So not the most entertaining race. That's why we skipped through a lot of it because it was just a little bit to be honest, I think this combination was just a little bit boring unless you had a lot of cars, obviously chaos, you know, pursuing. But if you were at the front like we are here now, you just found that most cars just separated themselves to where they qualified. It just shows you the top 4, I think the top 4 or 5 positions are the exact same as they qualified, and that just shows you when cars aren't making errors, it's basically impossible to get a pass done round here. So luckily we did a good qualifying. I decided not to do the top 16 race after doing this one because we were going out for a meal anyway, so I thought I'd give myself a little bit more time to get ready. Possibly should have done it because we would have got very good points if we'd done it, but with it just being an exhibition season, decided just to take this result. It's a risky combination because if you don't get the good qualifying in, you can find yourself all the way at the back as we fast forward the action for the last few corners there, going down to the finishing line, and we come away with a solid P3. So that is the little bit of a less entertaining race out the way. Solid points, P3 in that one. Quite far behind Josetti though. Just look at the pace that he put in that insane drive, and I have to say Josetti was absolutely flying around there. But we pick up 322 points, which is solid points. So we're now going to move on to the manufacturers race. Now we had done the other races, the top 16 race, all had gone pretty disastrous. There was issues with them, issues with the start, issues with moves that we made, issues with the defensive moves, but it was a lot of racing incidents. We moved on from that, no hard feelings towards anyone within that, and now we start the next race. You can see no issues on this start because we got 20 cars in. I don't know if that was causing an issue, but we're starting in P6. Didn't actually do a very good qualifying lap in this one. We got Tigany on I think P2 there. Mercedes in P1. It's a shame we didn't get a better lap in qualifying because I think we could have started at least P3 really. But that's just given us more of a task now to do in this race where we take a little look at that replay camera again. I absolutely love these replay cameras at Laguna Seca, especially that one where we see the cars flying through the corners, some going wide onto the dirt and kicking up the dust into the air. It looks really nice as we now jump on board again. Now what we had to do for this race, I decided the best way to do this was starting on the medium tyres for McLaren because With the McLaren, the soft tyres with the full fuel was absolutely killing the tyres. No matter how we drove it, it was making it really difficult. So I decided to get the medium tyres done out the way first. Try and look after the tyres. Try and utilise the slipstream for as long as possible. Now what you have in a situation like we've got here, the drivers up ahead, obviously on the soft tyres, are now they're fighting a little bit, but we're in their slipstream, so we're gaining out of them. We're using their speed, which is helping our medium stint run. And we're obviously trying to look after the tyres as much as possible, which you will see me doing by being very gentle on my downshifting and trying to be gentle on the throttle inputs. Now we didn't have to be as cautious on this stint as we had to be on the soft stint. The soft stint was going to be the trouble. The most laps I could get out of the soft was 8 laps, and I think the most you could get out of the mediums was pretty much 9. They started to struggle big time with the lack of rear grip. Now the McLaren, although it wasn't the worst car around here, it was definitely not one of the top cars. In terms of overall lap pace, it struggled. Rear grip was terrible, and it was very, very sketchy. But this race, we started to get a little bit of a rhythm. You can see pushing all the way to the edge of the curb there, even though we're on the medium tyres. Trying to push, but driving, looking after the tyres at the same time is quite difficult, especially when you're in a car that's not particularly competitive. At least if you've got a strong car, you can kind of drive it within itself and not push too much, because the lap time should still come. But with the McLaren, we had to pretty much drive it aggressively while looking after the rear tyre. So on downshifting, you're going to see me being very patient, not downshifting too fast, trying to stay in second gear rather than going down to first gear into some corners, because that if you every downshift you do is taking more life out of your rear tyres when the differential kicks in. So you want to be quite cautious on downshifting and be very cautious through the corners as well in acceleration zones. Try and stay in a higher gear if possible. That will help your rear tyres as well. As we come through to the final corner, patiently on the throttle there, using the steering to just reduce any wheel spin out of the exit, and going over the line to finish lap 2 there. Solid lap. We've lost the slipstream, but that's okay. We're obviously not worried too much at this stage, because you see we skip ahead to lap 7 and you can see what's happened. The soft tyre runners are starting to struggle a little bit. I think we had an issue with the Mercedes actually making a mistake somewhere, losing out from P1 and dropping down. You can see he's now in P3. We've got Nisman in front in P2. We're on the medium tyres now. They're going to go in the pit, some of these cars. You can see that they've dived off into pits very early for the Mercedes to pit that, I thought, considering he's on medium tyres. And it looked like he was actually struggling quite a bit, considering he was on medium tyres as well. I think that spin, he must have had a spin somewhere, which must have affected his tyres quite badly. So they're going on the mediums quite early. I decided to stay out. We're going to stay out and do lap 8 and 9, as we now have to defend from the Golf behind. As you can see, having a look around the outside, I'm not sure whether he's on the mediums or the softs. We're driving now, trying to drive defensively whilst also trying to keep speed, because we don't want to lose too much speed on this lap. So what you're going to see is taking it easy, but also trying to keep pace at the same time. It's a very hard thing to do. Is you're looking after your tyres, you're trying to drive defensively whilst trying to keep pace as well. So it's all about tactical positioning of the car, making sure that it's risky for him to go for a move, and he probably won't go for it. As you see, keeping quite good pace at the moment. The Golf obviously looks a little bit stronger, but he's going to have struggles with the tyres as well if he is on the soft tyres. As we have a look in the mirror, and he has nearly lost it there. You can see the twitchiness of that Golf behind. So clearly he's struggling with them tyres as well. As we come to the braking zone, towards the end of lap 8, you can see through the corkscrew, still keeping it quite smooth at the moment, considering looking at the tyre wear. We've done quite a good job. I have to say, this is one of my best races I've ever done in the Group 3 McLaren in terms of looking after the tyres, because this car was an absolute nightmare here. But we're doing okay. As we see the Golf peel off into the pits, he was on them softer tyres, so you can see, yep, he was on the soft tyres there. Looks like we're one of the only cars to start on the medium tyres at the front. You can see IA Racing looks like he might have been on the medium, but he was quite far back. So at the moment, we're looking like we're in a solid position. We're going to fast forward this final lap on the medium tyres, just trying to keep it nice and smooth. You can see the tyres did start going towards the end of the lap. You'll see, I think through the corkscrew there, had a little moment. I was considering going for 10 laps on these medium tyres, but had a little moment there, decided we're just going to pit and go in on lap 9 and then extend the soft stint for 8 laps, which again was going to be an effort. We're going to fast forward that pit stop, super fast pit lane there, straight out, and we're still into what position will we be in as we come out the pit. You can see P5 is up ahead, P6 is on our right hand side. Will we come ahead of that? Will we get out ahead of that BMW? I don't think we're going to make it, as we see the BMW just pull out in front of us there. He's on medium tyres now, and older medium tyres. So will he choose to fight us, or will he choose to play the safe game let us go and tuck into our slipstream and just use us for a bit of extra pace for his race, because there's probably no point in him fighting too much. You can see he's actually decided to let us go there, letting us go, use our slipstream for a bit, improve his overall pace so he can defend against drivers a little bit better towards the end of the race. Quite sensible driving, because at that point of the race he's got a couple of laps old mediums. We're on completely fresh softs. Our pace is going to be so much stronger. It's pretty pointless to fight that situation as we work our way into the corkscrew. And we can see up ahead that we've got the podium battle is kicking off in front of us. This was really motivating as well. When you can see the cars in front, it does give you that motivation. But what you can see me doing now that we're on the soft tyres, what you're going to see is I'm using higher gears through some of the corners, and I'm also using mixture 2 on some of the acceleration zones and the really fast corners as well. This is just to help the rear tyre life, because the rear tyres were so vulnerable to wearing out. You had to be very patient on throttle and really look after these. I didn't want to take too much life out of them on the outlap and on lap 1, because if we push too aggressively now the urge is there to push and get in that slipstream, but I decided to be patient, you see, using mixture 2, not overdriving it, because if we overdrive it we're going to kill these tyres. We're 8 seconds behind Tidgney there in P1. I think Tidgney's out of reach. I think we could have got within about 4 or 5 seconds of him at most if we had no traffic, but clearly up ahead we're going to have traffic to overtake, so that is not a goal. All we're trying to do now in this race is keep it nice and smooth and get ourselves up to the cars in front as smoothly and as cleanly and as fast as possible at the same time. So we don't want to be doing it like in one lap, because if we just push 100% we're going to kill them tyres, and then when we get in that dirty air the car's going to become undrivable and we're going to suffer. So what you're going to see is still being very patient in mixture 2 through the corkscrew, being very gentle through there in that second gear. We don't want to push too much, and staying in the mixture 2 through here as well. And early upshift to 4th gear as well dulls that power a little bit, just stops all that power to the rear of the car, and that's going to help the rear tyres as well. As we come to the final corner you can really see how much time we're gaining. It does look like the cars up ahead are really struggling, and they're obviously on the medium tyres, and they pitted very early. I remember they pitted lap 7, so our tyres are still going to be in better condition, and we've got the soft tyre. So if we do get in that slipstream range at any point, we're going to be able to really fight for a position in this race. We're in P5 currently, but there is a possible podium up ahead. So again, just trying to keep it nice and smooth on the exit of the corner, trying to make sure that we don't make any errors in the power zones, and still looking after them tyres. And look, you can just see up ahead just how close to the slipstream range is, and that is the all important range. We need to get within 1.5 seconds to the group in front. We're in P5, there is a Ferrari in there that's going to be struggling on tyres. However, the Mercedes and the Porsche, obviously some of the better cars in Group 3 on tyre wear, so they're going to be very difficult to actually make a move on over the last few laps. But we're not going to give up on this. As you see, trying to push at the same time as looking after the tyres again, hooking up these corners very well from in this stint, driving extremely nicely, keeping it nice and safe into mixture 2 again, just trying to make sure that we don't make any errors, avoiding some of the curbs. Sometimes the braked a little bit late that time, but got away with it, and you can see we're actually in that slipstream range now. We're within 1.3 seconds of the cars in front, and that is ideal for me. We've got a number of laps to go for another move as P3 decides to go for a pit stop. Now that is the Ferrari. That is kind of it's not a surprise with that car, probably worse than the McLaren on tyre wear, so he's out of this battle. The pit lane loss is absolutely huge here, so with just over 5 laps to go, or 5 laps to go, that is going to cost him too much. So I was quite happy to see that. We're now into P4. We've got the slipstream of the cars in front. Can we find the way past over these last few laps? This is going to be very intense. You can see we've got 2 very good cars for tyre wear in front of us. However, they are on medium tyres, and I am on the softer tyre, and I pitted quite a bit late. I managed to extend that medium stint quite a long way, which is going to give me maybe a little bit of an advantage over these last few laps. As you see, P3 running a little bit wide out of that final corner there as we go through to the final, as we go through to his left hand corner, trying to get a nice solid exit. You can see again, just being patient, not overdriving the car at this stage. Like I say, the temptation could have been there to really overdrive and get right in the slipstream, but our tyres would have probably been dead, and on the final 2 laps we would have just been drifting like we were on ice. So I think at the moment we've played it very sensible. Into that mixture 2 again for the corkscrew. Again, hooking that corner up very nicely, just being careful that the rear doesn't step out through there. It can happen so easy as we jump onto that replay camera, and you can just see how close this race is. You've got the Porsche up ahead, the Mercedes right behind that, and now the McLaren that I'm driving following behind, looking just to try and, we're just basically eyeing the situation up at the moment as we get a solid exit from that final corner, and P3, actually in the Mercedes, gets a very iffy exit. You can see are we gonna be able to go for a move? We're getting the slipstream. We're gonna have a little look up the inside here just to let him think that we might, but we're too far back. We're not gonna go for that. Braking nice and early, still in mixture 2, you can see, just to make sure that we get a nice solid exit from here. And actually staying in second gear, what you'll see is there, we're not going to go down into first gear like you probably would if you were on a qualifying lap. We're going to stay in second gear just to preserve them rear tyres as much as possible. But at the moment, this is looking very promising. You can see that the cars up ahead are clearly struggling. P3 is obviously trying to get as much drive out of these corners as possible. He really wants to get past that Porsche. I think he maybe had a little bit more speed in the McLaren and the Mercedes. The Mercedes was probably, in my opinion, the best car for this track. It's the most drivable, it's fast, it's really easy to drive as well around this track while driving fast. As he's going to go around the left hand side, is he going to be able to go for a move on the Porsche? It looks like he's got that move made, especially with the braking ability of that Mercedes. We can see just how good that Mercedes is on the brakes. We should take advantage of that, and we go for a move on the Porsche driven by Nisman. An absolutely brilliant move there. I saw that one come in, braked nice and early, gave myself a really nice entry point into the corner, and just went round the outside of the Porsche. So up into the podium position myself. This is absolutely brilliant result for the McLaren to be in P3 in a podium position, driving the car that was one of the weaker cars around here. I have to say, it wasn't a very strong car. So 100% happy at this point of the race to be in P3 and looking like we're going to come away with some very solid points. We have a little look up the inside. We're going to brake late, but just look, we're actually into that braking zone. It looks like the McLaren has actually got a little bit better brakes. We actually give Jim Bray a little tap on the rear. We're not going to carry on trying to go past him after that. We back off a little bit and just give him some space after that, because that was a little bit of a nudge into the braking zone. However, the soft tyres still on the fronts look very strong. It's just when we're braking with a bit of a it's the downhill corners where the car seems to be affected more. You can see that with the tyre where the fronts are actually quite okay. It's just the rear tyres really struggling at the moment. You can see we've got 3 laps to go and the rear tyres are starting to wear out. However, the cars in front and the car behind are also going to be struggling with tyre wear, but they're on the medium tyre with that less amount of grip. So this is going to be really interesting. Will we be able to make a move on P2 and get ourselves up a position? You can see we've actually started to lose time to Ticheney now in P1. We were actually gaining. We were doing 21.3s, and then as soon as we got into that traffic, straight into a 22.6. So we lost probably about a second on that lap, given the tyres that would have faded a bit anyway. So we're starting to lose quite a bit now when following cars. I think we could have possibly, if we had no traffic, I think we could have got within 3 or 4, maybe 5 seconds of P1. No way we could have got the win though. I just don't think the McLaren had the ability around it to match the Audi. Although the Audi was probably going to suffer with tyre wear as well, knowing what that car is like to drive. It isn't the best on tyres. As we go down to second gear, again, staying in second, not going to go in first gear because that's going to kill the tyres. And again, looking after the tyres with that mixture 2, trying to find a way past the Mercedes in front of us. You can see we've actually pulled out a gap to the Porsche at this stage. We've managed to give ourselves a nice comfort to the Porsche driven by Nisman behind. So we don't really need to worry about defending. We're in 100% attack mode at this stage. You can see, having a look down left, just trying to make sure he can see our car, trying to work his car to see if we can wrong foot him somewhere. And again, a really solid exit from that corner. We're going to have another look down the left hand side again. We're not going to actually try and go for a move there. It's just to try and make ourselves seen and put him under a bit of pressure. We get a nice solid exit from that corner. Can we go down the left hand side? We've got our left hand, we just about got our car side by side. Decided to brake early because we saw how good that Mercedes was previously. Mercedes gave us space there though. We backed out. No point really going for that because the Mercedes was so strong on the brakes, with it being the FR car. The brakes on that corner were brilliant. It was so stable through there. I just decided we'll wait for a better opportunity. I think the opportunity was better into turn 1, or maybe out of one of the exits of one of the corners where the softer tyres were helping as we go through that final corner, getting a really nice exit that time. And again, Mercedes seems to be struggling through that final corner. Can we get a run going down into turn 1? Let's see what happens here now. We're in that slipstream. We're going to fake it to the right, down to the left hand side, and we can't. Again, just a little nudge in the back of the Mercedes. Again, we just couldn't make that work. We tried to wrong foot him, but he didn't fall for it. He just kept his car in a very nice defensive position on this final lap now. And very, very well driven by P2 there in the Mercedes. The perfect defensive driving. Didn't react, kept his car nice and stable in the centre, caught us out a little bit. Luckily, we managed to slow the car down enough not to take us both out in that situation. But again, we're going to try and go around the outside now. We've got the run around the outside. Can we undercut him now on the inside? We're going to try and get on the throttle nice and early. The tyres are fading, but just enough grip there. So close to being able to get up that left-hand side, but we had to back out. And again, we're going to try and get the run up the hill now. You can see the extra grip coming from the corner with the line we took. Can we go around the outside? This is going to be very, very difficult. I decided we're not going to try that. We're going to try and brake early, let him brake late, which he does do. He goes a little bit sideways through the corner, and then on the power, the McLaren nearly loses control. The rear tyres, you can just see how twitchy both our cars are at this stage. The tyres are nearly gone. They've got literally no grip left on them. So through to the final 2 corners now, into the final corner. Can we go for a move on this final lap? This is going to be so close. He braked very late. We braked nice and early, trying to get a nice solid entry into the corner. He actually runs a little bit wide. We're going to put full throttle down. It's a drag race now down to the finish line. Can we get ourselves into P2? We just don't have the power. You can see that Mercedes has managed to hold on to P2, but what an amazing race that was at Laguna Seca. My best ever drive, I think, driving in the McLaren GT3 car. Obviously, we've had better races in the Group 4 car because that is a better car. But for the Group 3 car, I was 100% happy with that race, and we come away with some very nice points considering 300 points at that combination. I didn't expect that amount of points, so quite happy. We actually improved our overall points by 1 point. Every point counts, but unfortunately didn't manage to take P1 overall for McLaren. We finished P2 overall, but I think overall an okay season and still potential with McLaren, I feel. But overall, pretty happy. Hope you enjoyed that video. I 100% enjoyed that manufacturer's race. It was an absolutely brilliant and enjoyable race. So make sure you hit that subscription button if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the notification button so you don't miss any future streams or live videos, etc. Thanks again for watching, everyone.